Today's AskReddit post. What is your favorite, very creepy fact? Oh boy, this is gonna be a good one. Let's get started. One reason that crows and ravens are associated with death is because they would often follow armies as they marched to battle. Being both carrion birds and extremely intelligent, they realized that a large group of armed men marching on one direction meant that there would be a tasty meal of corpses to eat soon afterwards. A feast for crows, one might say. Oh my god, why have I never gotten that? I felt the same way when I realized why the Bioshock is called Bioshock. Yes, the spiritual succession to System Shock is part of the reason, but the title still makes sense. Female mummies in ancient Egypt were always more decomposed than their male counterparts. They discovered that this was because male bodies were embalmed a lot sooner than female bodies. Female bodies were kept at the family home until they started to decompose in order to avoid necrophilia at the embalmers. Those goddamn mummidickers. MILF. Damn you. A human corpse decomposes 4 times faster in water than in the ground, and 8 times faster in open air than in the ground. Sky burial is such a crazy cool concept. When I'm dead, just throw me in the trash and then burn the trash so it gives the bar that nice smoky smell and it goes up in the air and turns into stars. When a person is electrocuted in the electric chair, they feel everything. They are fully aware of their bodies being fried as it happens in real time. One inmate who survived the first round of electrocution said it tasted like cold peanut butter. Not good if you're allergic to nuts. Edit. Wow, this blew up. Thanks for the awards. True, you could die from this. If you are allergic, I feel bad for laughing at this. Cotard delusion is a rare psychiatric condition, severe cases of which cause the sufferer to wholeheartedly believe they are dead, putrefying, or simply do not exist. Some Cotard's patients refuse to eat, as they do not believe they need to, with one notable patient dying of starvation. Another woman once asked to be taken to a morgue, to be with the other dead people. I once felt that I wasn't real when tripping on acid. Thankfully it only lasted 7 hours. Edit. To everyone jumping to conclusions that I had a bad trip. Despite the thought that I wasn't real, I still had fun. I went for a walk and everything was beautiful. I was not at all frantic. Actually, I was fairly calm other than running to the mirror a couple times to make sure I hadn't disappeared. This happened to me while tripping on shrooms outside at a campsite. Somewhere nearby there was apparently a dead animal. Every few minutes we would get a whiff of it, and as the trip intensified I came to believe it was my own rotting corpse I was smelling. I sat there in silence for hours while everyone else was having a grand old time. Then finally got up the courage to run away through the fields of wheatgrass like Russell Crowe in Gladiator. In 1844, there was a case of hysteria in a French convent of nuns. One started meowing and after a week all the nuns were meowing harmoniously in the afternoons. It didn't stop until neighbors called soldiers. There was a similar happening in Germany. The entire population of the village danced and partied themselves to death. That was likely more due to mold in the grain they used to make bread. They were literally tripping their faces off constantly. If this is true, then makes a lot more sense. There is a rare genetic disease called fatal familial insomnia where over the course of months you literally cannot go or be put to sleep no matter what you take or what you do. The symptoms get progressively worse until finally you stay awake watching yourself go insane until you die from exhaustion. There is a guy by the name of Ricard Syajan who documented this genetic disease on YouTube, and with each video you can tell his mental state gets worse and worse. It eventually gets so bad that his last videos are just weird conspiracy theories and, as expected from a disease with no cure, he sadly passed away before he started suffering from it, since it can sit in your genetic code for years without you noticing. He was an artist. May he rest in peace. Edit. Peace not peace. Duck autocorrect. And also he apparently got it from an antibiotic he took, instead of it just being in his genetic code for years because the dumb as me didn't read the description. Probably should be clarified that while the symptoms and mental state could be similar, Cyanogen clarified in the video description of his first video regarding his insomnia that he did not have fatal familial insomnia, but rather, it was a side effect from taking a specific antibiotic that created a neurotoxic reaction resulting in his inability to sleep. Which antibiotic? He doesn't say the name, but in the description he said this tragedy happened last summer, August 2015 US, after taking 2 weeks course of 13,000 mg fluoridum genotype toxic based antibiotic. I can't mention the medicine name here to avoid discomfort of the third party. He also offered his email in case people watching had guessed the name and wanted to know what the drug was. I suppose he didn't want legality issues. But if someone watching had been taking the drug, they could have messaged him to double check if they should seek help. The children's story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin was based on a real event. Hamelin town records start with this event. The earliest written record is from the Town Chronicles in an entry from 1384 which states, "It is 100 years since our children left. No one know what or who took the children. But there's records of the entire town's children being taken." I actually did some research into this. Historians believe the children were not taken as in kidnapped. No mysterious man grabbed all the children and took off. Instead, an illness probably spread which mostly impacted children, who have a weaker immune system and are not as strong. The illness probably killed most, if not all, of the children. Another theory is that the rat catcher didn't kidnap them. Instead, the parents gave them to him as payment instead of money. After getting stung by a cone snail, you don't feel the sting for a little bit. There is no antivenin and it can be lethal. Treatment is basically keeping the victim alive until the venom wears off. That's just like the blue-ringed octopus. But we gotta restrict blood flow from bite, right? I think it's more that you need to get put on a respirator until the paralysis wears off. The human brain continues to give off electrical signals for 20 to 40 seconds after death. This is why sometimes people move right after they die. We took my mom off life support and held her hands as she passed. She had been unconscious for days at that point, unmoving. When she died, her whole body moved like she was having a seizure, which was really upsetting. It's just the last bit of electricity in your brain going out. Also, hearing is the last sense to leave. So if you are with someone who is dying, please keep talking to them. It takes approximately 359 humans to have enough iron to forge a sword from their blood, the edgiest weapon ever. It's estimated that there is around 25-50 active serial killers in the US. That seems kinda low. It's hard not to get caught nowadays with cameras everywhere and DNA technology being at where it is now. The world today is not an easy place for serial killers to thrive in as it was in the 70s and 80s. It's hard not to get caught nowadays with cameras everywhere and DNA technology being at where it is now. Oh, it's much easier if you get real rural. I've been through little mountain towns where you could drop a body off a cliff and it'd be lucky to ever get seen again. Hell, you get to towns small enough, someone could shoot you, bury you somewhere on their heavily forested land, and that's the last anyone will see of you. Oh. The armpit is where all your important nerves in your arm, so if you stab it you can't really use your arm. Edit. Please stop replying, I need to go to bed and I also know about the artery. My friend was in the military police for a while. He was trained to incapacitate drunk and angry soldiers by jamming his thumb as hard as he could into the armpit. Apparently it can knock a person unconscious. Can anybody confirm if this is true? I always thought it was bollocks as I've never heard anybody else reference it. Former MP, trained by XSF and Marine Corps MCMAP instructors. This is true. There's a similar bundle of nerves in your legs, midway down your thigh on the outside, called the common peroneal. A good quick jab or knee strike can buckle both of the victim's knees. Edit. Spelling. In school we used to dead leg each other randomly. You'd just be standing in line for lunch and bam. Knee to the side of the leg and you're on the ground with your leg numb. The good old dead leg. Don't miss it. Your insides are constantly moving around and stuff. I hate this, but it's my favorite for that reason. I tried on a proper tight corset once. When I took it off I could feel my inside slide back down out of my ribcage. It happens during pregnancy too. All your organs shift to accommodate a baby. When you happen to be murdered, there is only an about 40% chance that your murderer will be found and punished. When, not if. Yes, everyone gets murdered, right? Technically, your cells eventually murder you. That's how old age kills people. About 3,000 people disappear every year in the US and are never found again. This is really scary and sad. One of my worst fears. I have moderate, not terrible, OCD. One of the most common images I have is someone from my life, almost always a woman family member, GF, etc. being kidnapped. Well, people searching for them after they go missing, not the abduction itself. PS obsessive type, not compulsive or mixed, and OCD isn't what PPL think it is usually. They're usually thinking of obsessive compulsive personality disorder. Essentially what I have is intrusive thoughts I can't stop from having when they occur. I've tried explaining it, but from the reactions I get, I'd imagine it's like explaining color to the blind. When your organs are taken out of your body for abdominal surgery, they don't get placed back in carefully or specifically. You just put all the organs back in and the body sorts itself out. On top of that, some people are born with a condition called situs inversus, in which all their organs are a mirror image of what is normal. Having this automatically disqualifies you from being in the military. Edit. The military disqualification very well might have been either a lie, or a miscommunicated or outdated fact by my EMT instructor who was in the army decades ago. He would also tell us little known laws he knew from his police days, some of which sometimes turned out to have changed since his retirement. That's my bad for not confirming with the almighty Google before posting. When your organs are taken out of your body for abdominal surgery, they don't get placed back in carefully or specifically. You just put all the organs back in and the body sorts itself out. Back when I was a surgical intern I remember that, after an abdominal surgery, the surgeon would grab the open edges of the abdominal cavity, like when you hold a plastic bag open, and shimmy the hell out of the person's open wound. I asked him what the hell he was doing and he said when you shake a person's guts like this, they kinda fall into place on their own. I looked down and he was right. They all fell perfectly into place. The body is ducking weird, man, like a squishy moist 3D puzzle. Vlad the Impaler was called that because he killed his enemies by placing them as first on pointed poles that would slowly skewer them to death. He's also hailed as a hero in Romania. I've been to his castle. The area it's in is actually very beautiful. Edit. The castle was a Bran castle, which he actually never set foot in. My bad. Still a beautiful place though. Ass impaled corpses do wonders for landscapes. Look around you son. When I were a lad, all this went out but ass impaled corpses. Scaphism. The worst way of execution I've ever heard of. The word comes from Greek which stands for hollowed out. The victim is trapped between two boats, fed and covered with milk and honey, which then attracts all kinds of insects and vermin that fester and devours you over a couple of days. Kinda like that rat thing where they heat up the cage or whatever so the rats escape through your body. Exactly. That was a typical medieval torture method which was used even for petty thieves if I remember correctly. This was also shown in an episode of Game of Thrones. Room 101 contained this, for instance myth. Similar. His was a mask full of starving rats that would have devoured his face. That you smell better when you're asleep. Me specifically? How very kind of you to say. All in a day's work. Or night's work. Foreskin is used to grow skin for those that need skin transplants. It would have cost you £0 not to type that. You asked the question. Now regret. What you call a cheap circumcision. I rip off. While most parents do what they can to prevent or stop their babies from crying, that's not always the case in Japan. That's because it's a 400-year-old Japanese tradition that if a sumo wrestler can make your baby cry, it means he or she will live a healthy life. During a special ceremony, Parents hand over their infants to sumo wrestlers who bounce their precious tots up and down and sometimes even roar in their little faces to get the tears flowing. He's not a baby that cries much, but today he cried a lot for us and we are very happy about it. Mother Mayshide said at a 2014 event, "I feel like a few £100 man screaming in your face would make any baby cry. So that's kind of cheating. Hell, it would make me cry." Dogs like squeaky toys because it sounds like a small animal being crushed. I saw the neighbor's dog get a baby bunny in their yard when I was upstairs. The resemblance to that squeaky toy sound was uncanny. Yes, my dogs cornered a baby bunny one time and were playing with it. I thought they brought out one of their squeaky toys until I took a closer look. Luckily the little bun wasn't hurt. The last use of a guillotine in France was the same year the first Star Wars movie premiered, 1977. Anglerfish. When anglerfish mates, the male literally deforms its body and fuses with the female, then they live together for the rest of their lives. Egyptian mummies are significantly more rare than they used to be because Europeans ate a lot of them. They were looted from Egypt and used as medicine. I never heard that they ate them, but they did grind a shit ton of them up to make a paint called mummy brown. Many famous paintings contain mummy paint. Somewhat recently, 2012, scientists discovered over 1,400 new species of bacteria living in the belly button. Everyone's belly button ecology is unique. Add it to the fingerprints and snowflakes list. In that same study, one volunteer's belly button harbored bacteria strands that had only ever been found in soil from Japan, where this man has never been. Given your username, I have a feeling you know exactly where the bacteria came from, lol. Bucake ruined my carpet. Not my day. Smiling face with sunglasses. Tarantulas can swim. Guess I have to move to the ISS. There is, as of yet, no conclusive evidence that there isn't at least one tarantula on the ISS. Edit. And it is, thus, no longer constrained by gravity. You have a bunch of microscopic parasites called demodex on your eyelashes and in the pores on your face. They come out at night to lay eggs on and eat the oils on your face. Now tell me demodex isn't a Pokemon. I think it's actually just DMX's full name. Postpartum depression psychosis can show up in a new mother virtually overnight. It can make them hallucinate or go into psychosis, making them think their baby is a demon or the Antichrist, for example. New mothers kill their own children because of postpartum depression psychosis more often than you might like to think. The more the mother knows it's a possibility, the better she'll be able to combat it if it arrives. Edit. Postpartum depression is also a thing and is also a serious issue, but does not cause hallucinations and delusions. That is specifically related to postpartum psychosis, so I have edited my comments to reflect this. My mistake. Mine got so bad that I thought I needed to kill all my kids as a mercy killing and then kill myself so the world couldn't hurt us anymore. It's been 5 years and I still feel horribly guilty. I got help and no one was harmed. My mother had it to a small extent when I was a baby, and her telling me about it was my first experience with it. She said she was feeding me and she looked down and my face had been replaced with some kind of demon. She immediately looked back up and closed her eyes, and when she looked back down I was back to normal. She had a background in psychology and was pretty familiar with the whole process, so luckily she was able to work through it. Ah, so you learned to disguise your true form? Semicolon. You could be killed instantly by a brain hemorrhage and have no warning signs prior. 1 second you're perfectly fine, and the next you're dead. I hate this one. It unsettles me every time I read it. Honestly, it's nothing to fear because you won't know about it if it happens. Also, compared to thousands of other ways, it's not a bad way to go out. Nah, I'm still scared because I don't have my shit together, and if I die before I get my shit together, everyone will know I didn't have my shit together. Everyone is, and when they die, especially when they die suddenly, they will say at your funeral, yeah, it's really tragic what happened to you snooty villager, but man did he have his shit together. 6 fingers on one hand is actually a dominant trait. Edit. This blew up and ripped my inbox. Explain. Genetically, the gene for 6 fingers is dominant, meaning it'll be expressed even if there is only one of it. In genetics, dominance is the phenomenon of one variant of a gene on a chromosome masking or overriding the effect of a different variant of the same gene on the other copy of the chromosome. The first variant is termed dominant and the second recessive. Remember, a dominant gene means in the genome, not vast population. For whatever reason, 6 fingers prove to be some sort of evolutionary disadvantage, which is why there is a vast lack of that gene in the human gene pool. Prove to be some sort of evolutionary disadvantage. I'm not sure I agree with that. The 6 fingers gene is probably an autosomal dominant mutation, sort of similar to Huntington's disease. I doubt it has any evolutionary significance, or else we'd see far more skeletons with 6 fingers. Personally, I'd guess it's just stuck around long enough because it's not actively disadvantageous to have, but offers no real benefits over having only 5 fingers. I have to disagree with it not being advantageous. I've seen 2 separate biographies, or interviews with 6-fingered people when the 6th digit has been fully formed. Both instances they have been noted to have exceptional hand strength with a 20% increase in finger. I would imagine it would also help with manual dexterity related tasks, as there are several times that you would use 3-4 fingers at a time for separate functions in the same task, such as using chopsticks. Is it a major trait worth noting for evolutionary purposes? Probably not. However, the thought of humans in 30 million years being 7 feet 6 inches with 12 digits makes me smile. Bro, you actually watched the whole video. I'd give you a high five if I was a human. Make sure to click the like button and subscribe for more great content. See you next time.